Steelers by the lake, with the way to say. James Strong, Cody Tanner, host on the mic. About to dive in deep, keep it live, that's right.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong. Unfortunately, going solo tonight. Cody's a little bit under the weather, so prayers up for Cody. Hope he's feeling better by the time you guys hear or see this video. So bear with me if we get any awkward silences. Hate doing solo ones, but it's better than no show at all. So away we go right into the news. First thing, Pittsburgh did make some roster transactions, moving around people on the practice squad per the usual. They released linebacker Ade Agundaje. I really thought I was done saying this guy's name, but here it is once again. Outside linebacker depth is looking pretty solid right now. So they went ahead and moved away from Ade, signing John LeGlue back to the practice squad. John LeGlue's been off and on the practice squad for 3 or 4 years now, a veteran with offensive tackle and guard capability. Actually, not too bad of an offensive lineman. He had to start for Pittsburgh a few years back. I thought he looked capable and was hoping he would be developed as a future starter, possibly even. But high-quality backup, in my opinion. I'm not disappointed in the slightest seeing him back on the practice squad. One disappointment for the Baltimore Ravens, it turns out that this whole Diontae Johnson thing has just turned completely ugly on them, and they have officially released Diontae Johnson. So for those of you keeping track of the whole Diontae Johnson versus Dante Jackson trade that Pittsburgh did, Pittsburgh definitely made out for the better, as Deontay has now been traded to the Carolina Panthers, traded to the Baltimore Ravens for basically a bag of footballs, and now released from the Baltimore Ravens without really having any impact there at all. So he's an unrestricted free agent, and I can't imagine there's going to be much of a demand for him with his current issues with refusing to go on the field and just not playing well for anyone other than Pittsburgh. And his play dropped off so dramatically the last couple of years with Pittsburgh after early on in his career having a Pro Bowl season. So you hate to see that happen to anybody. Hopefully he can turn his career around. Just doesn't look like it's going to be in 3 different places now. So interesting to see how that plays out. Let's move on to the injury report. So always we keep you guys updated on what's going on both the Steelers and the opposing team. We'll start out with the Pittsburgh Steelers first. Justin Fields is out with an abdominal injury. He suffered that in a game against the Eagles on his one offensive play. He scrambled, got hit as he was going down, injured his abdominal. He will not be playing. George Pickens still out with a hamstring injury. That's very, very frustrating. That's very, very difficult, man. That's tough because the offense has looked pretty bad the last couple of weeks without George Pickens in the lineup. Just no ability to stretch the field, get the ball moving, get drives going or sustained. So hopefully they can figure that out this week, but they're going to have to figure it out without George Pickens. Also, Deshaun Elliott has been downgraded from questionable to out. So starting strong safety Deshaun Elliott, who has played very well the last few weeks, going to miss another game. So that's really a horrible thing because he's a great run stopper. He's been really good in the pass defense as well. So going to see more DeMonte KZ. Maybe this is the week that we see a call up from Eric Rowe. There's a possibility of him being promoted. We'll see. Cornerback Dante Jackson is questionable with his back injury that he sustained during the Philadelphia Eagles game. His practice so far this week has been, it looks like, limited, and limited is the best he's done. So that's really bad news for him. Unfortunately, I would say there's a decent chance of him not playing. We might get our first glimpse of Corey Trice maybe on the active roster this week. Larry Ogunjobi, groin injury, also questionable. He had a little bit more practice throughout the course of the week, so that's going to be 100%. How does he feel going into the game? There's a little bit better depth there at the defensive line position than there is at the corner position. Beyond that, TJ Watt has made a recovery and is going to play fully. So this is a tremendous thing. It looked awful when he went down in that game. It looked like we might have a pretty serious injury to him. And turns out he's not going to miss a single game. It looks like pretty much everybody else on the injury list for Pittsburgh was just getting rest days. So getting the day off so that they would attempt to be healthy on what is already a short week. It's not just a short week for us. It's a short week for the Ravens too. So they get the same thing that we're dealing with. Now, as far as their injury status, cornerback Jalen Armour Davis has been ruled out with a hamstring injury. Nelson Aguilar is in concussion protocol and has been downgraded to out, so he will not be playing. Wide receiver Rashard Bateman has a foot injury. He is questionable to participate in the game. Also, guard Daniel Fa'alele, he's got a knee. He's questionable also. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson, we now know, has been released from the team. And outside linebacker Odafe Owe, who he absolutely owned Dan Moore in the first matchup this season. So he's got an ankle injury. He is questionable. I would expect him to play, but he's a little bit banged up. So worth noting. We need to dive into, after all this, what are we going up against? What is the starting offensive unit? What's the starting defensive unit for these Baltimore Ravens? We know them well. They know us well. Last game we won with 6 field goals. Hopefully Pittsburgh can score some touchdowns this time around. But you definitely need a strong performance both offensively and defensively against this team. So bring in the quarterback room, Lamar Jackson is healthy. This will be the first time since the COVID year that he has started a game in Baltimore versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh has beat the Ravens 8 of the last 9 matchups. They are very, very hungry for this win. Lamar Jackson is very hungry for this win. So expect him to be highly motivated. The wide receiver room, Zay Flowers, Rashard Bateman are listed as the starters, with Tylan Wallace and Nelson Aguilar backing them up. 2 of those 4 guys were on the injury report. As far as the running back room, we all know what the story is with Derrick Henry. Pittsburgh was able to limit him in the first matchup. Going to be a little bit more difficult this time around with Larry Ogunjobi banged up. Deshaun Elliott will not be playing as well. So everybody needs to rally to the ball and make sure we're not in one-on-one situations. Get yourself a second person on them. Maybe somebody knock the ball loose again and force a fumble on them. That would be great. His backup, Justice Hill, more the receiving threat. That's the one that Peyton Wilson got the interception versus last week. So not last week, but the last matchup. So expect that to be another thing where they try to get him out in the open. They try to throw to him and try to get him in space. Peyton Wilson will draw that matchup whenever possible. Fullback, Patrick Ricard, the biggest fullback in the entire NFL. And then the tight end room, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, those are the big dudes, right? Mark Andrews was kind of gimped the last time around. I don't think he was fully healthy. He looks like he is fully healthy this time around. So expect them to go there quite often, and it's extremely important our linebackers and tight ends, or our linebackers and safeties, cover that up well. The offensive line, Ronnie Stanley starting on the left side, Patrick McCarry at left guard, overrated center Tyler Linderbaum starting there, right guard Daniel Fa'alele, and right tackle Roger Rosengarten. And yes, I call Tyler Linderbaum overrated. That's because he's had some pretty awful performances versus Pittsburgh. A lot of people have bad performances versus Cam Hayward. He dominates, especially guys like Tyler Linderbaum, who have extremely short arms. We've talked about this many times on the show. Arm length, such an important attribute to an offensive or defensive lineman. It's a very limiting factor to a lot of centers. Tyler Linderbaum's arms were extremely short, which was one of the reasons I was not interested in him as a prospect. Plus, he was very underweight, had to add a bunch of sloppy weight just to get up to 300 pounds his rookie year. So he's got quite a reputation around the league, but not against those bigger, longer, dominant guys like Cam Hayward. He struggles with them. So let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive line, we've got nose tackle Travis Jones and Michael Pierce. Michael Pierce was injured in the first matchup. He is healthy to go again this time around. Defensive end Broderick Washington and Brent Urban, with defensive tackle Nnamdi Matabuik. Tough defensive front, man. This is a tough defensive front. but just as tough as they are, the linebacking core is the same. Odafe Owe, very important that Pittsburgh knows where he's at all times. We can't be leaving Dan Moore one-on-one with him. Probably going to have to chip because Odafe's speed was a major problem for Dan Moore in that first matchup. The middle linebacker, Roquan Smith, has been issues for Pittsburgh in previous years. Weak side linebacker, Trenton Simpson, is a height, weight, speed dude. And then the strong side linebacker, Kyle Van Noy, who's kind of been around the league, journeyman, real intelligent dude, knows defenses real well. So not a specific person to target there. Maybe a little misdirection might go well versus Trent. Not the highest IQ football player in the world, but Roquan Smith and Kyle Van Noy are very smart players. Into the secondary we go. The cornerback rooms, Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens listed as the starters. Trey White played real well against Pittsburgh last time around. The rumors were that he was a lot slower than he had been previously. He looked every bit as fast as he had been in that first matchup. Starting safeties will be Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington. A little bit of a switch up from the last time around. I think Marcus Williams got to start last time. So a little bit different in that secondary. I understand they're doing a lot better against the pass than what they were earlier in the season. Going to the special teams units, punter Jordan Stout from Penn State University. He's also the holder. Kicker Justin Tucker having his worst season of his career. Last I saw, he was under 75% completion on his kicks. Missed 2 of them in the game against Pittsburgh last time around. Long snapper Nick Moore, I might as well call him Long Yapper. He's out here talking trash about Patrick Queen. I don't know what in the world that's all about. Buddy, you're just snapping the ball. You might as well stay out of where the real football players are out on the field. The return men, kickoff returns, Justice Hill and Rashid Ali. And then your punt return men's, Tylen Wallace and Zay Flowers. So that's what we're looking at as far as offensive and defensive lineups. Let's get into our 3 keys to success. This week, you're going to have to deal with just mine, unfortunately. So here's what we've got. First off, establish an effective run game. The run game has looked pathetic the last couple of weeks, and I think that has a lot to do with why the passing game has not been working well because they've been very one-dimensional. So got to get a healthy run game going. I'm looking for a 4.0 yard average on everything, and I don't know if there's some end arounds or quarterback scrambles in there that skew it in a positive manner. Just get yourself a healthy average so that you can keep the offensive attack balanced and less predictable. Key number 2, sack Lamar 4 times. Pittsburgh has a history of having a lot of sacks versus Lamar Jackson, not just in recent years, but in his early years in the league as well. They've had games where they had up to 9 sacks versus Lamar. Got to keep him on the move. Don't let him be comfortable. Last game, we kept him under 50% completion percentage, and that had a lot to do with all the pressure that Pittsburgh applied to Lamar all game long. It's a healthier pass rush unit this time around with a healthy TJ Watt. Alex Highsmith really turning it on. Nick Herbig didn't get a lot of run in the last game, so he should be pretty healthy. And now Preston Smith into this unit as well. I would rotate these guys all game long, keep them fresh, keep them coming at Lamar Jackson all game long and make him uncomfortable and keep him uncomfortable. If you can keep that completion percentage low again like last time, I like your chances. Prediction number 3, my third and final key to success, score 3 touchdowns. Don't care how. They could all be on defense. They could all be special teams. You could get 1 from each unit. I don't care how they come, but 3 touchdowns seems like it would be enough for Pittsburgh to win. These are typically low-scoring matchups. These are typically rock fights, lots of running the ball, lots of short gains. So it's important that Pittsburgh converts their drives when they do get them, finish in the end zone. So that is my third key to success. Now the big part of the show, my score prediction. I'm actually going to predict the Ravens to win this week 20-15. I am very nervous about George Pickens being out. The offense has looked absolutely pathetic last week, and they have got to earn my trust back. Going against these top-tier teams like the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, if you can't start proving to me that you can actually move the ball and score some points, I'm not going to believe it. That's just where I'm at with these guys right now. So they need to earn my trust back. Until they do, I'm going to predict that they will lose to top tier teams like the Baltimore Ravens. I don't want to see that happen. Let me be clear. I would love to see Pittsburgh sweep the Ravens. If they do, they will clinch the AFC North Championship and they'll get their hats and t-shirts in Baltimore. I would love nothing more than to see that happen. So here's to hoping Pittsburgh's able to pull this off. I'm going to wrap the show up now. Catch us on TikTok, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Google, anywhere you find podcasts, you'll find us. And go Steelers.